Hello, everybody. I am just waiting to be joined by Lauren McMeekin. Here she is.
Hello.
Boom.
Boom. Boom goes the dynamite. Hold on. I got to get this situation
I,
situated.
I like your mic cover. You did the
Oh yeah, whatever the hell it is. It's different, right? Like it's I don't even remember what it's called.
I don't either. Kevin would know, but
Ah, damn it, Kevin, where are you when we need you?
um,
How are you?
we did
Should we
um.
harmonize? Go for it. Ready?
No,
Go.
I can't harmonize. I don't.
I'll harmonize. You do it. You just hit a note. Ready? Um.
Okay,
Nailed it. Okay.
cool. So, obsessing on obsessing.
Obsessing on obsessing and obsessing on compulsing. And somebody in the comments was asking about one of my personal favorites about recovery, which is obsessing about whether or not you even have OCD. It's my favorite. It's my favorite because OCD is such a freaking bastard.
Usually everyone's favorite.
Oh man. Yep. I remember when I was going through treatment and I I I don't think, well, I know the community online wasn't as prolific back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea. And I thought for sure I just didn't have it. I was like, and I kept trying to convince my therapist. I was like,
Wait,
I
are
really,
you
I'm
sure?
pretty
'Cause
sure I'm in denial. I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah. That it's just really the reality of my life.
right, it's just
Just my worry is real, except for, yeah. So anyway, maybe it is. Who knows?
you do have a great article on OCDLA's website called Doubt, Denial, and Other, what is it?
And I think it's doubt, denial, and OCD. I think.
Doubt, Denial, and OCD.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it was important to me to write an article by the time I became a professional about it because of my own experience. So it was kind
Right.
of cool to get to write it. But we've gotten to talk lots about this. We were going to write an article together on this. I feel like
This,
a while back.
I was just gonna say, I think that was the start of our friendship
That was like one of the
around
beginnings.
the
Yeah,
romantic, the honeymoon phase
the
of our,
honeymoon phase of our friendship.
wow.
Yeah, I like it.
Anyways, um, what were we saying? Okay, so
So,
you're doing,
obsessing about recovery. And this is for educational purposes only, guys. No, no treatment
this,
here.
this is not therapy
Yes, it's
at
not
all.
therapy. Nope, not even close.
We're just shooting the
Breeze?
shit. Shit.
Oh, dang. You went for it, dude. Sorry, I feel like I left you hanging there a little bit.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I've done that to you before. So I had it coming.
It happens.
I like your
So,
jacket.
oh, thank you. Thank
I've
you.
seen you wear it before, but I do love it.
Thank
It's
you.
leather
Yeah.
brown, right?
Yep, it is. And my mom got it for me at a swap meet, I think, for a very low, low price, which is my favorite part about it.
I'd like to go to one of those one day.
Remember those?
Again.
Remember? Yeah, I remember those. They're great. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to that post COVID. So if you have questions, also throw them in the old question mark box, and we'll get to them when we can, after we talk about general obsessions, compulsions, exposures,
Right.
etc.
And just a little reminder that last week there's a lot of chatting going on, and which is totally fine.
Yes.
Please chat away, but
Yes.
just know that we cannot have a meaningful dialogue between the two of us while trying
Monitoring.
to monitor right
Yeah.
the discussion. So
Yeah.
just wanted everybody to know that.
Up front.
So
Good,
yeah.
good disclaimer. I like it. Do you want to start
So
us off?
obsessing on obsessing
Yeah. So
is
what,
always a fun
Kelly,
one. Yeah.
what is obsessing about obsessing?
Lauren, you may go.
Yes. Okay.
Obsessing on obsessing is there is a wide range in which
Hmm.
obsessions fall under this category. However, I think the more generic one is obsessing over Um, your obsessions, obsessing over when you're going to have them, if they're going to get worse, um, what time you're going to have them, how intense will they be? Is this going to be forever? Is
Hmm.
treatment working?
What if they
Um,
ruin an event?
what if they ruin an event? What does it say about me that I'm having these types of thoughts, even though the thought, like the content of the thought maybe isn't upsetting as much anymore, but the fact that that person still has them.
Yes. What does it mean? Why am I having this thought? Yeah,
Yeah,
what does it mean about me? Then it's to the, and then obsessing on treatment and diagnosis as well, which is sort of what we were talking about to begin with, sort of like, because I feel like it's the, if we're to box up our categories today, right? We've got obsessing on obsessing, obsessing on compulsing,
right.
obsessing on diagnosis,
Yeah,
question
and
mark.
then
What else?
obsessing on recovery. Did you say that?
Yeah, and do they all fit under the same? Maybe not. Maybe that's a different one too. Yeah. So those all.
Well,
I don't know.
again, so I don't know. It depends.
Well, we're trying to box things that don't belong in boxes anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I think you're right. I think that so. In any case, obsessing about obsessing and then obsessing about compulsing,
Mm-hmm.
which is where it's like I'm in treatment and I want to do treatment well, so I'm having worry thoughts about what if this is a compulsion and what if I don't get better because I keep doing compulsions.
And
And I don't
am
think,
I doing my
oh,
exposures correctly?
am I doing my exposures correctly? That's a good one.
Am I
Yeah,
doing the right exposures?
right.
Is this the right
Yes.
therapist?
What if I'm not doing my oh, this is one that I've heard like, oh, well, do you have to do your exposures in especially when there's different content areas like that, do you have to do them in a specific order, or like should you clump one content area together and deal with that before you move on, that kind of stuff?
This reminds me of when I first started to learn how to treat OCD. And
Mm.
I remember somebody asked me that. And I was like, shit, I don't know.
Oh my god.
And that's when I had to do my own work. And I was like, oh my God. Because then I started to spin out myself.
Hey, yeah, like, oh shoot, what if I, yeah, what if I don't treat this person well
Don't
because
worry, they
I'm,
ended up getting in recovery anyways.
well,
See,
despite
we're
your
all
best
frauds. We're
intentions.
all frauds.
I know, we really are.
It's
I'm a
truly a
super
thing.
fraud. Super fraud. Oh my god, that would be my superhero if I were a superhero.
Super fraud.
Super fraud.
Not super frog, but super fraud. Wow, we're having way too much fun today.
Wait, we need to chill out with the fun. We're not allowed to have fun
This
police.
is really
No, I
out of
like it.
control. Um, okay.
So
So,
I think we've
really,
covered.
we're harmonizing on our.
Yeah.
So,
So I like. I think that that's. Did we cover most of the typical obsessions? We got obsessing on obsessing. We got obsessing on compulsing. We got obsessing about whether or not you're doing treatment right. We got obsessing on whether or not you really have OCD. Am I being redundant now?
no, I think that's right. I think
Okay.
at some point we should probably talk about the two-tail spike.
Yeah, I haven't thought. I can't. I don't know if I know what the two-tailed spike is. I can't. I haven't thought about it in a while. Oh, it's right. Okay, I think I remember exactly. Well, I know who it's Dr. Phillipson, but I couldn't remember
Yes.
exactly what it was because. But yeah, do you want to go ahead? I think I know what it is.
Yeah, so it's when, okay, so it's when you're into recovery and you already kind of know what's a compulsion and what's not.
Hmm.
And so your awareness is there, your insight's there. And then you're put into a triggering situation that requires you to make a choice. Okay, it's all based on choice. I think it's the choice article by Dr. Phillipson.
Yeah, is that where he talks about it first? That's
Hmm.
funny. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I heard it on the OCD stories, but then
that's where I
I
heard it too.
read it
Yeah.
further in the choice article, which now is an audio because it's a long article. So just in
Yes.
case, it's a great article. But
It's an OCD Stories podcast, isn't it? Where I don't
mhm.
know if Dr. Phillipson or Stuart reads it out loud. Somebody read that out.
Someone, they get it. Oh, well, Dr. Stephen Phillipson on his website, he has the article, but he has a downloadable version that's audio.
Hmm. And I do think that there's actually like an OCD Stories podcast episode that's
That
just
is.
recorded audio. So I don't know if it's the same, but
Okay.
so
So, anyways,
you're into recovery. You're about to make a choice about
about to make
whether
a
or not you're
choice.
gonna do a compulsion or like
You're worried
you're worried that you're gonna do a
that,
compulsion.
yes, you're worried. So, let me give you a very concrete example.
Please.
Um, I was at a birthday party
Hmm.
and my daughter was there. My sister-in-law was there. She is my witness of it, and I use it all the time as an example because it's really spot on. I see a giant butcher knife, and there's a cake and a round circle table, and all the kids are around it, and the knife is fairly close to my daughter. It's like pointing directly at her. It's probably this far away from her face because she's little. Remember, tables are like this.
Yes.
And my initial reaction was like, okay, just move the knife because naturally that seems like a reasonable, like safe, we don't know though, right? So
Right.
then I pick it up and then I go, oh my gosh, am I doing a compulsion? And I put the knife back down.
Right.
And then I picked it up.
Right. And you're like, oh no, what do I do? Is this a compulsion? Ah, what am I? Yeah. Well, and
And
that's
Lucy looked at me, she's like, oh my gosh, Kelly. It was like she knew I was being anxious and I didn't know what to do. So Dr. Phillipson talks about this and that there's no right answer. You just make the choice and
right.
let whatever happens be. And you just make the best choice in that moment, but not to overthink it like I did and sat there. And that's the compulsion, essentially.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's trying to figure out whether or not it's a compulsion that becomes the compulsion. Isn't with, can I ask a follow-up question about the
Yeah.
two-tailed spike? I think it's also when either way could be a compulsion, right? Like either response could be a compulsion. So it's like,
Mm, maybe. I don't know. I always understood it as recovery. Please, though, I'm sure you are correct. I'm
no,
positive of it.
I don't know
No,
about
go,
that.
go. Tell me.
But I seem to remember it was like he talks about it in the way of, I think, of you are, let's say you have to do everything, like you have to step with your left foot over things, and that's part of your compulsivity. And so you decide to turn it around and be like, screw it, I'm just going to do the right foot over everything. And I'm going to, like to really mess with my OCD.
Right.
But then it becomes, I have to do the right foot in order to make sure that I'm not doing a compulsion. So it like sort of becomes as
Mm,
rigid on the other side so that it becomes at which either choice could potentially be considered a compulsion or an exposure, and you get kind of stuck. Does that
yes.
make sense?
Yes. And I don't know. So now my definition is way off.
I don't think it is
Um,
though, because it's the same thing. It's like at a certain point you're like, I'm trying not to do a compulsion, but wait a second, am I going to do the compulsion because, or if am I trying to not do a compulsion compulsively? God damn this disease. Oh my God, it's
it's
maddening.
just so upsetting.
It
Like
is.
just talking about it, I'm like spun out.
Yeah.
So
No,
for
no,
all
I
of you
think
out there,
your example is totally spot on though, I think.
it's like, am I missing an opportunity to do an exposure essentially
Right.
too? And the bigger heading of this is I don't want to relapse. Okay.
Yes.
That's
That's
the fear thought.
that's the fear thought. That's the core fear, or not the core fear necessarily, but
I
it's
think it was in that moment for me, but
central.
yeah, it was definitely central. It's like I was willing to risk. And also, I think a lot of stuff with obsessing on obsessing is learning kind of where's the average, what does the average person
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think what's crazy is yes, what is I agree with what you're saying, and I think that the fact is that in order to be normal, you have to be willing to do some compulsions,
Yeah, well,
right?
I wasn't
Because
saying
normal,
normal, I mean like the average.
yeah,
So I didn't
Average.
mean to say it like that.
No, did I? I
Um,
probably said it like that. You probably didn't. I'm saying though that oh my God, we're so special. The average the average person does compulsions is what I'm saying. I
yes,
mean,
of
we don't
course.
necessarily call them that because it's not like but they do safety behaviors, even if they're maybe a little bit excessive from time to time, and that's okay, right? Like it cannot be black and white, even when it comes to, I'm not gonna do a compulsion. Okay, so for
Yeah.
example, full disclosure to people watching, because we do this all the time with one another, right? Like I will text Kelly when I'm having a tough time and I'll be like, okay, don't answer this if this is too reassurance seeky of me, but you know,
She prefaces it.
I'm like, is this
This is
yeah,
definitely an OCD therapist.
yes. Well, that's what you get when you got two OCD
Sorry,
therapists
go
with
ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah,
No, but I'm just saying that like I I wouldn't not say something because it stands the potential for being compulsive. Like sometimes you do. Sometimes you want to check in with people, and that's okay. And maybe it is compulsive. But the idea is that we don't want compulsions to overrun our lives. That's
right.
that's the main issue. So as long as your compulsions are largely in check and you're not doing like overt compulsions that are just detracting from your life, then you got to be comfortable with this gray area ultimately.
Yeah, that's what recovery looks like, folks.
True.
And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up when they have obsessing on obsessing is, oh my gosh, is they think they have this ideal picturesque idea of what recovery is and that it's like linear and that it's going to be compulsion free. And the reality is like, well, when you're
Right.
having a bad day and you haven't slept the night before and maybe you're really hungry and you're PMSing and you're in pain and your child's screaming, that perhaps you might let a compulsion go by and it's not going to be the end of your recovery.
Life. Yeah.
Like
Or your
that's
recovery.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not going to
Absolutely.
be the thing that make or breaks the trajectory of your
Right.
future.
Right. It's just
So,
more of like, I love what you said there. It's a choice by choice matter, right? Like we
yeah.
want you to be choosing more of the recovery choice overall. And then every once in a while, maybe not so much.
Yep. Absolutely.
I was going to say something on what you were saying that like the thing about, so with obsessing about obsessing too, this sense of what if I have these thoughts forever is also a really myopic way of viewing recovery because recovery includes obsessions. You're
Say
not
that
supposed.
again.
So when people start to worry that they're going to continue to have obsessive thoughts forever and that's an obsession, that this fear has a very limited view of what recovery actually looks like
Right.
because recovery includes obsessions and you
Yes.
have to be willing to have obsessions in order to walk into recovery.
Right.
As long as you're not willing to have them, you're still in the throes, so to speak.
Right. And actually, I think it's one of the biggest roadblocks of recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to have these stupid thoughts.
Yeah.
Make
Like,
them go away.
and they also, and myself included, is like you think, oh, the way I feel right now is the way it'll always be. Like,
Yeah.
oh, so if recovery includes obsessions and then that person is currently having obsessive thinking, then they're like, well, this is terrible. I can never have obsessive thinking. When is this going to get better? And
Totally.
then, the following week they come into session and it's like they're just worried and obsessed over when is it going to get better? I can't live like this with these thoughts.
Right.
And it's
And
saying, well, we
generating the
actually,
thoughts. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead,
I was
say
just
it.
going to say, while you're doing, like, you are actually generating the thoughts that are keeping you stuck while you're doing that, which is
Right.
messed up.
I
Yeah.
know it is such a messed up situation. Um,
But I cut you off.
No, I think whatever I was going to say is probably right along the lines of what you were going to say.
I get so
Um,
excited that I feel I interject.
I know I do too. I actually say it because I know I'll forget it. And
Yeah.
I get excited. I'm like, I know it's going to be gone forever. It'll never enter my mind again. So I must
Say it now.
say it. So,
I feel bad.
pardon.
Pard.
Pardonne.
No, I'm the one who trampled you.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I trample you all the time. It's fine.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. Anyways, we're amazing.
We're
That's our new
amazing.
thing.
We're amazing.
Okay. So that was a long explanation of the two tail spike. I always want to say spin. I don't know why,
Well,
but
because it's
two tail spike.
spinny and it's spiky. It's a
Yeah,
spinny spike.
it's a spinny spike. It's okay.
Mm,
We're really going off the rails.
I love it
Coming
though.
back. Um,
So, compulsions.
so compulsions. You want
Lots and lots and lots of ruminating, right? That's
to.
where it's so hard because the obsessive thought pops in about whether or not you're going to be obsessing forever, and you take the bait, but it can start to feel like, oh, this is all just obsessing. And that's when people are like, oh, well, I have no control over this because this is all obsession. But really, it's not all obsession at all. It's mostly compulsion. So the tendency to want to mentally figure out whether or not you're going to be able to drop an obsession at some point in the future, or whether or not you're going to do something that is compulsive, or you are doing something that's compulsive, or trying to figure out internally whether or not you have OCD. These are all examples, very common examples of compulsions within this realm, and reassurance seeking for sure.
Yeah, reassurance seeking. Well, can you give them some examples of what you mean by
I would absolutely love to give them some examples.
that?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So, for example, do you think I'll get better?
Mm.
Do you think I'm going to have this worry thought forever?
Do you think I'm better now? Like, do I seem better?
I'm better now, right? Yeah,
Oh shit.
exactly.
I think we both asked
Ah,
that one.
yeah, it's better, right? Is it going to be better? What if it's not better?
Do you
Oh
think I
dear.
was better like a couple months ago when this happened? All right. Anyways,
Well, and the
um,
thing, the bastard of that is that you start to compare your recovery life to pre-recovery. Like, there's this,
ugh,
I know,
I
I know,
hate
it's
that one.
worst, the worst. That was the scream. That was it, right?
Ugh.
It's, it's like, oh, well, there was this perfect point in my life where everything was good, and now it's all tainted because
Yeah, it's
of
all.
my obsessions, and I'm never gonna feel okay ever again.
I'm never gonna be that person again.
Yeah. So, but I should definitely try and compare myself to that other person to make sure that I'm there, because when I get there, I'll know I'm okay. But just by virtue of the fact that you're trying to figure out of whether or not you've gotten there,
You've
you're
shot
still in it.
yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Straight in the foot. Right.
man. I have a few clients right now with this one, and it's like, it's so hard to conceptually explain it. They get it, but then to like, yeah, to let go of that grip is hard because you're asking a lot. And I get it. But
For sure. Yeah.
another compulsion I can think of is like, well, what did I do my exposures correctly, right? Like sometimes people will come back after getting assigned homework and saying like, well, maybe they did it, but they have like this very long-winded explanation of how they did the exposure and kind of seeking reassurance in that they did it correctly, or just direct hit and saying like, I don't know how to, did I do it? I think
Direct
I did it
hit.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
or not doing it all because they're worried that if they did it wrong, they'd get worse.
Yes. Yes. I think I want to go back to something you were saying before too, that I
Hmm.
think that the obsessing about whether or not you're doing as well as before tends to come up a lot for people who have already had a period of recovery. So
Yeah.
this is particularly relevant for people who are on like a second or a run of ERP because they've had ERP before and they stopped treatment, and then some other obsession hit them from out of nowhere, and they're like, oh my gosh, but what about now? And they sort of tend to idealize that initial recovery period. Does that
Oh
make sense?
man. Oh
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. I think, well, I do think it happens to both regardless, but I do think
Oh,
that
for sure.
second one is really just a knife right in the jugular there, is
Yeah.
because you're saying, well, if my recovery looked like this before and I had this huge reaction where I was able to get better and improve, how come this time I'm so stuck?
Yeah.
It must not be OCD, by the way.
Right. It's probably not OCD, and I'm never going to get better because obviously I can't get better because, or, even if it is OCD, because yeah, it's not like it was before. Oh, God, I hate this.
Man, we could talk about this one for
I know. It's a real
infinity.
deep dive. I'm not going to lie. By the way, if you have questions specifically to this subtype, I just want to throw a reminder out there. Throw them in the question mark box so that we can look at them when we're done with talking about obsessions, compulsions. Because I think I've seen some come through on the feed.
Yeah, please do.
Yes.
And I'm sorry if we, this might be it's this topic in particular can be very
Spinny.
spinny. Yeah, and it starts to fold in on itself. And I think, we know it really well, maybe, that
Yes.
we don't get it spun. But even I was getting spun. I'm like, geez,
Well,
please.
it is because it's very heady, right?
Yeah,
This is not for the stupid, right? Like
right.
it's like all getting jumbled in the noggin. So,
Yeah.
and if you find yourself not having this, it's fine. You don't need to like figure out what we're talking about. It's more for people who are struggling with this and they're stuck and they certainly I know a lot of people who've been there. I've been there. So hopefully it's helpful for that crew.
Yes. So, thank you all for sticking with us through this fun little trip we're going on.
Because you know what?
What?
Spinning is uncomfortable, or it's like dancing. We're all just
Mm,
spinning together. We're all pirouetting together, like
yeah.
Jack and Rose on the Titanic
Oh man,
before.
I do not like the Titanic movie. I'm sorry. I think again we have found our divergence.
Just that scene where Leo and Kate are like, they're spinning. It's magic.
Oh.
But then they
I'm
die.
not a big romance film person. I'm just not, and I don't know
Okay.
why.
It's okay.
I think I should revisit it, quite honestly.
Maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just not.
Let's revisit it together
Let's
one of these
let's watch
days.
the Titanic together. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Sorry. Okay. Toodle back on the rails.
Anywho, okay,
Anywho,
other compulsions on obsessing.
yeah. So we talked reassurance seeking. We talked mental compulsions. Emotional checking, by the way, is a big part of the mental compulsions. Like this one,
Right, like do I feel like I'm in recovery? Do I feel like
right?
that thought still bothers me, or
Mm-hmm.
the
And I feel
backdoor spike?
anxious. Oh yeah, the backdoor spike.
A little backdoor action.
I'm not anxious anymore. What does that mean? I just had that horrible thought about murdering my whole family and it didn't make me anxious. Maybe that means I really liked it from the very start.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a serial killer, and this is just my way of allowing my serial killer to come out unchecked,
Mm-hmm.
for example.
Absolutely. For i.e. this. Um, yeah, that's such a good one. It's not good. It's just a good example. I meant,
Okay.
don't do that. Don't check for your obsessions. So, um, another compulsion would be, well, I think, so tell me what you think about this one. I've had a lot of people come in and give me just so much information about their obsessions, right? Like too much information because they don't want to miss they want me to get a thorough examination and assessment so I can be the most effective person for them in their treatment. And I'm like, okay, well, I understand that you want to get it all. And I wonder if we could just do a little synopsis instead of the nitty gritty. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Totally. Well, because that tendency to really want to uh, almost like compulsively confess to
Or
every piece.
clarify.
Well, exactly.
Hmm.
Yes. To just really outline it all so clearly is just so that somebody doesn't get it wrong. And so to take, I love what you're saying is that essentially the exposure there is to be slightly, maybe potentially incomplete
Hmm.
in the way that you're describing. And look, this is again, if it's only if you're being really excessive and wanting to spell every single detail out. It's quite normal to want to spell out to your therapist what's going on with you. But
Sure,
if you're
of
finding
course.
yourself leaving session and going, "Oh my gosh, but what if I didn't say that one thing right and they didn't hear it right and therefore they misunderstood and they've got the diagnosis wrong," right? That's more of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would just say, if you are seeing a therapist and you notice that come up afterwards, like, oh wow, I noticed that I want to email my therapist and clarify something, is I wonder if you could just bring it back to the next session and say, I noticed I had these thoughts
Right.
about wanting to clarify, because I think that's a really important part of treatment.
Yes, because then your therapist can really help support you in seeing the
Hmm.
potential compulsivity there and
Yep.
explore it with you, and help you to consider tolerating uncertainty and the unknown. Which, by the way, I saw another question come up, and I just really want to see these questions later. So, question mark box if you have a question, por favor. Anyway,
Yes. We got about 7 right now submitted.
beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Another
Avoidance,
compulsion, avoidance. Yes. Well, yeah, I'm sure avoidance. I'm just trying to think. Um,
like not wanting to get triggered. So, well, I mean, that's just sort of straight up, but like, I don't want to like do my exposures at a certain time because that will bring on my obsessions. And I don't want my obsessions to be a part of this thing. So I'm going to
yes. Yes,
not do my
yes.
homework here.
Right. It's like the days when you're having a good day, right? And you go,
Oh, yeah.
ooh, I don't want to do my exposures today. Today's a good day. I'm feeling good. Nope, nope. First of all,
First of all,
that's
soapbox sister, go.
yeah, that is when we do our exposures. It's when you're having a good day, because we want to be able to experience triggers under every single circumstance, especially on a good day.
For real. Generalize that business. You know what I'm saying?
Generalize it.
Inhibitory learning.
Oh, I know
Bam.
what you're saying. I know.
Also, a good
Yes.
day is not determined by the presence or absence of intrusive thoughts. Thank
Bam.
you. You nailed it. Nailed it. Mm.
Nailed it. Amazing. Did amazing.
So, yeah, we're amazing. Oh my God.
I was gonna say, if that were true,
Mm.
I'm not sure I would have had like a good day in
Well, that's the problem, right?
close
Is
to
that
40 years.
and you're
Yeah.
36 now?
No,
7.
older. Nah.
No.
Let's not
All
talk
right.
about it.
What?
No, it's
I'm
cool.
done. Nothing.
Okay.
So,
Anywho's. So,
anywho's point, Walter, is
avoidance.
avoidance
Yep.
is definitely a thing, and
I would say therapist hopping too,
yep, yep.
right?
Ooh,
Like
and
I'm,
excessive research. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I was just gonna say I've seen people where, I'm their second or third therapist because the first therapist who, had them doing maybe, well, we'll get into this in the exposure section of this talk, but
Yeah,
they weren't getting treatment, like they weren't feeling recovery, right? Whatever that is, they weren't getting relief
yeah,
um, soon enough, quick enough, the way they hoped it would be. And the
yeah,
reality is that that's what's actually getting in their way.
yeah, yeah. It's the all or none thing, like the all or none thinking around obsessions that prevents people from enjoying anything. Also, I'm just gonna throw that out there. With the you mentioned being like 40 years without
Hmm.
having a good day. If you have to
Yeah.
have an obsession-free day in order to have a good day, and that's part
Yeah.
of the problem, right? It's the sort of perfectionism around recovery that often prevents people from recovery or from getting into recovery. Whereas if we can just accept the presence of obsessive thinking intermittently, then it comes and goes, and it's not such a big deal.
We should definitely do a live on perfectionism because I think that perfectionism has like this positive connotation with it. And the reality is like perfectionism is absolutely, absolutely debilitating
And toxic. It's
and
just
toxic.
awful, awful, awful.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so and then you said something about what? Go ahead.
Oh, well, with the therapist hopping, you made me think of the fact that sometimes people will excessively research to make
Yes.
sure that they have OCD. Um, they also may avoid reading about other types of OCD so that they don't pick up new obsessions. Um, so
Yes, totally. That's and also the frantic call that's like, "Oh my gosh, I have a new obsession. I'm relapsing."
hmm yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
And then come to find out when I meet with them, they tell me how they handled the obsession really well.
yeah. Yes, I,
Right.
I
So,
I know I've shared this with you, but I will share with the people here that I once had a therapist when I this
I
one's still
once
my
had a therapist.
therapist. I once had a therapist from Nantucket. My therapist though, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having this thought now. Like I thought this was a long time ago, but I was afraid that I was like picking up a new OCD theme, and he's like, no, let's just not do this one. And I was like, okay, and I did.
And you did it.
And
I
I
know.
didn't. I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna accept that that thought's there without going any further with it, because oh well.
Wow. Shut down.
Shut down. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a very similar experience, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with the therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, well, let's just not do that." Or what do you mean?
We're not doing that.
You
Okay.
don't want to pick this all apart and
Are you sure? But what if this happens? No. I guess
yeah.
maybe. And that's the thing, ultimately, right? Like if we're as we're transitioning into discussion of exposure work, the ultimate exposure and response prevention is to say, mostly it's the response prevention is maybe I am gonna obsess on this forever. Maybe it's never gonna get better. Oh, it's so scary. It is so scary to say that, right?
Yeah.
That's when something has completely ruled your life in the way that OCD has the capacity to do.
Yeah.
But to be able to say that, that's where freedom is, because if you're willing to have obsessions, then they no longer get to tell you what to do. It's just like, oh yeah, maybe I will. Okay, but I got to get back to what I'm doing because I've got a very full life to live.
And being okay with having that there with you
Mm-hmm.
when the version before you who you idealize, which let's be honest, it wasn't that ideal, I promise.
Yes. No.
Not to be a negative Nelly here,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It's true.
anyways, we often magnify these positive aspects of our life. So just so we can so we can magnify the negative.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Yeah.
crisscross back to what I was saying. What was I saying?
Applesauce. I don't know.
I was saying, I forgot.
Before what I was saying just now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were starting to talk about I the
Oh, exposures. What are we talking about? We're getting into
I
exposures
was
now.
sort of starting to dovetail what you were saying, which I can't remember exactly what led us here, but um, but yeah, I think we were gonna
Oh,
start. Oh, go.
I know what it was. Was that oftentimes people go, well, I'm not going to do that thing that I used to do. When you said like, okay, just don't pause your life, keep doing your life,
Yes.
and bring that obsessions with you. But sometimes people will avoid that because they don't want to taint that thing, or they have this perfectionistic way of thinking. It's like, yeah, but this is how it should be. When I'm doing my work, I should have no obsessions. I should not be distracted.
Right.
And we're
Right.
saying the exposure is, well, actually, no, let's practice doing that.
Yep. Yep. Contaminate the hell out of your life. Like
With
do all of the
having,
things.
also with having no expectation that all of a sudden those obsessions will go down. Okay.
That's
Because
the crazy thing, right? You can't do that.
can't,
Right. So
exactly. You can't, when you say you can't do that, you're saying like, don't do that, right? Like, don't,
correct.
right.
Saying don't expect the acceptance of thoughts and feelings has to be unconditional or it doesn't help.
Right.
If you're using acceptance of thoughts and feelings as a strategy to try to control them, then it will not support the the recovery that we're talking about, which is
Right.
okay, the thoughts are going to come, the feelings are going to come. I'm going to live my life and allow for those thoughts and feelings and not be quite so bothered by the fact that they're there.
Right.
Yeah,
It's such a mind game.
it is. Oh, and I will say too that the ultimate with the fear of it, what if it's not OCD, is to treat it like OCD.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Walks
Treat
like
it
OCD, quacks like OCD, treat it like OCD.
right. Well, this is OCD.
I guess maybe it's not,
But we're going to treat it like it is,
but we're going to
anyways,
treat it like it is anyway.
which is really scary. So,
Really, really scary. Can feel really scary.
exposures. The one that's popping out at me just because you just said it was just halting the research stuff, right? Like not looking for certainty or reassurance that your intrusive thoughts or images are normal for OCD.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Or
remember, oh, go ahead.
no, go.
I was going to say, I remember when I couldn't find, mine didn't fit in one of the
Mm,
boxes. Like, none of them do, but
no,
I
but
feel like mine was a little fringy. And so when that happened, I got really stuck in that, oh my gosh, but I have all this proof that, like, psychologically backs up. There's evidence, man.
right, right, dude. But have you
There's
seen?
evidence. But everyone has that. I think mine really got stuck on that one, though, which is
Totally,
that obsessing on obsessing.
totally. No, and that was where I was too. It's like nobody obsesses about whether or not they relapsed on a piece of tiramisu. Like this
Yeah.
is not a thing. I didn't
Right.
see that in the subtypes. Nobody had tiramisu OCD.
But it is a
They,
common subtype to
they do.
obsess on your,
Yeah,
like, if you've relapsed in recovery, relapsed in
absolutely. In
substance.
substance use recovery. It
Hmm.
is, but at the time I had no idea because nobody was talking about it. So I
No
just
one
assumed that
was.
I was the only person that had ever naturally because
I
I'm
know.
so unique. Um, and I think that that's the thing is that tendency to want to figure out like but my subtype it's not echoed in the literature, so it probably
But
is a real thing.
it's not on the Y box.
It's not on the
So,
Y box, so oh well, guess
hmm.
yeah. Yeah.
So exposures, no researching.
Yeah, drop the researching, having reminders to obsess, setting them
Hmm.
sporadically throughout the day. Make sure you don't forget that you want to have this worry thought.
Yeah, you definitely want to have it. You're going to do your exposures on days you're having a good day.
Definitely.
I can
Absolutely.
handle this feeling.
Hmm.
Prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Doing and yeah, I think that that's the thing is to your point, just doing the exposures on the days when you don't feel like it. It's really a solid one.
mhm.
Yeah, and that's where Grayson's article about obsessing comes in with the stickers as a
Yes.
exposure, very much like reminders. Is just like you put a bunch of stickers or sticky notes on things around your environment, so that every time you see one, you're like, "Ah, right, that's right. I'm supposed to have that obsessive thought now."
Yep.
Good one. Okay, think. Great. And then,
And the thing Lauren's talking about are those little, at Staples, you can get those little price tag circle
mhm,
stickers,
yeah.
and you just place them on random places. Well, for me, I used to place them on things like right before I typically go into a triggering, where I would likely be more to do mental rumination, because
Hmm.
mental rumination is a sneaky little guy.
It really is.
And I would just be like, okay, I'm going to try to be really aware, bring on the intrusive thoughts. You can put them on your TV, your mirrors, anywhere, your wallet, your keys.
All over the place.
Yeah.
And
So
if you don't have those little dots, you could
could use
just use a
stickers.
post-it, yeah, or sticker. Oh my God, what if you just used really awesome stickers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It could just be like a silly face or,
Yeah,
I don't know, a bunny.
I like it. I'd like a bunny exposure, please. Sign me up.
Sounds manageable.
Sounds manageable.
Um, Another exposure, making the choice, right? Like just pick a choice. Leave the knife, Kelly, or don't, and then
Yeah.
walk away.
Yep. Accept uncertainty with that. Yep.
Accept that maybe you did a compulsion.
Yep. Yep. I'm trying to think because I feel like so much of the exposures here are more passive in nature, aren't they? That they kind of have to come up.
They are, and they're also, there's a lot, it's super heavy on mindfulness, and because the mental rumination so heavy here.
Yeah.
And this is where people get even more stuck into, I'm not getting better, I'm not getting better, give me more exposures.
Right.
And actually the reality is we're just feeding this secondary obsession, because the content doesn't bother you anymore. Now you're just obsessed with getting rid of the thoughts.
Right.
And so
You don't
giving
want them to
you,
return, right?
right, you don't want them to return, so you're just compulsively like flooding yourself or doing massive handfuls of exposures. And really we just have to accept a life that's has obsessions in it. So
Yeah.
it is a lot of passive, it is a lot of wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like what you were saying, the last thing that you said about compulsions of like, just pick. Maybe it is a compulsion. I'm going to just do it anyway. I'm making the choice. I'm just
Right,
going to go with it.
right. um
What do you think? Should we
yeah,
take some
let's do it,
questions?
because we do have to be mindful of time because of
Yes.
the
Yeah, yeah.
um so let me go through ones that were submitted
Sounds good.
ahead of time. Are
Sounds good.
those, I haven't done it on my end in a long time, are those in the question box as well?
Yep.
Okay. So this person says, what if it's not OCD? What if I'm using OCD as an excuse or to hide my true self?
Mm.
So I think we had talked about that, right?
Yep. True self, authentic self. What if deep down I know it's not OCD?
Right, right. So how do we respond to that, Lauren?
Mm. Not I don't know how to respond to it. I'm saying the response
Yeah,
is I don't know.
I don't know, but we're going to treat it like it's OCD.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to move forward as though it's OCD.
Yes. Um, this is interesting. A person asked, is it normal for OCD to be a triggering word for you?
Hmm.
And I guess what I'm thinking is, okay, well, if that person is, and if they're here, please say something. But if it's, the fear is, I'm worried by saying OCD, I'm going to have more intrusive thoughts, or I'm going to all of a sudden, um, yeah, if I'm just going to get intrusive thoughts, then yes, that sounds like obsessing on obsessing.
Yeah, like if I remind myself that I have OCD, it's going to bring up more obsessions, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I am not going to answer whether it's normal or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in light of the content we're talking about, unfortunately,
Yes.
it seems okay.
Good call.
Okay. Um, this person asks, sometimes I feel like I'm recovering. Then the thoughts come back even worse. Why is this? Great question.
You want to field it?
Right. So you start feeling a little better. This is called the backdoor spike. We talked about it earlier. And you go, "Huh, that's weird. I wonder why. Let me just check, make sure that thought doesn't bother me anymore." Boom, thought appears.
Totally. Totally. The other additional point, because I feel like this is the primary pitfall that I see with clients who are working on stuff, is that you start with the mindset of acceptance of thoughts and feelings. And then what happens after that is that you start to feel better about the presence of the thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You are less bothered by them. You are less anxious. And then you, after you are less bothered by them, they tend to sort of dwindle. You're not having as many of the thoughts or feelings. There's more variety. And then you're walking along with the less thoughts and feelings, and then you get a thought, and you're like, no, I don't want that.
Right.
Hold on. Well, we got rid of those. And it's almost like you revert to the wrong mindset.
Right.
You revert to, I don't want to have these thoughts. I don't want to have these feelings. So instead of being an acceptance, you go back to resisting the way things are. And then it's not that the thoughts get worse. It's that they start bothering you again, right? Because you're out of the accepting mindset.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Mofo.
Nailed it.
Thanks.
Nailed it.
Thanks, dude. You nailed it.
It's just so interesting because it just folds in on itself. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just so, it's the meta obsessions.
Yeah. Such a disorder.
So this person says, trying to decide when it's obsessing or just me giving it attention it deserves. So I guess
compulsing versus, yeah.
Right, is this obsessive? Right, like, am I compulsive? Is this a thought I should be worried about? I think, is that what they're saying? Or
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing, is that how do you basically tell the difference between when it makes sense to think about a thought versus when it becomes compulsive to think about a thought.
right.
We don't get to know that.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. You
don't get to know for sure. And that's the thing. You make your best guess. I mean, like, we can't give direct advice, but in terms of sort of generalities, that in this work, you look at what rationality says and you go with that. And then you accept all of the discomfort and that the uncertainty brings, that you just can't know.
Yeah. So I like this one for a particular reason, but they ask, so I'm not anxious anymore. Is it still OCD?
What do you smell?
Well, it sounds like obsessing on obsessing to me.
Yeah. Like maybe a little backdoor spiky. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just like, well, also, you're not feeling anxious anymore. What the hook is going on? First of all, are you talking about in this moment? Because whether you have OCD or not, you're going to feel anxious, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a broad sweep. I'm not anxious anymore.
Unless your amygdala has started to calcify, which I've always wanted that condition, even though I really don't, because
we've discussed this.
Have that, it's awful, but
it is, yeah. So,
but
that's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say, hold on, do I want to say this? I want to make sure that I'm not being like unintentionally reassuring, or do the best that I can.
Right.
Try to not be, I lost it. It's cool. Let's move on.
Well, OCD doesn't just I don't know.
Well, we all I think that you're going to have different responses to different thoughts over time. And even if you're not experiencing an active obsession or compulsions, I suppose depending on who you talk to, some people will say like you can be recovered. I personally think that as long as you have a brain and that you're going to have a brain that works in a certain way and that you're going to be more probably more likely than the general population to pick up.
Well, and why does it matter? Right? Because, I mean, it matters, but I'm saying
Why do we have to
technically,
figure it out? No, go
yeah,
ahead.
like that person might be in recovery, like they don't meet criteria where it's become, right? Do they still have OCD? Well, the DSM would say no, right?
Right.
Because they're not compulsing. Although you did say that now, like it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to have compulsions, which is not true.
Right. Yeah. No, that's just stupid DSM
Yeah.
because compulsions are in the definition of obsession. But whatever, it's fine.
Right.
I don't mean that. Like, obviously, a lot of very intelligent people wrote the DSM. I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but
No, it's okay. You can be an asshole. You're not an asshole, but
thanks.
um yeah, I guess I'm just saying like that's so much attention. It's too much power we're giving a definition to something. It's like, well, how about we just really gauge the quality of our life in general
Yeah.
versus I need to know my diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just feels very rigid.
For sure. Well, that's the thing about obsessing about whether or not it's OCD is that it's just a sneaky way of saying, is it okay for me to not do compulsions? Right? Like it's basically like, oh, but what if I don't do compulsions and something bad happens, which is the exact same thing that your OCD was trying to sell you with your general,
Right. They just
you know,
rewrapped it.
just rewrapped it and we're like, here, what about this? And
Yeah.
just bat that shit away.
Yeah, and
No,
just boom.
I don't want your stupid
Nope,
gift.
we're not doing that.
Yeah. Nope.
um so this person asked a good one. I have this compulsion where I feel that I need to write down every thought I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or else what?
That's an interesting question. Yeah.
Right? Or else what would happen, right? Because that is a common one we'd often see,
Yeah.
right? Is like the compulsively clarifying, catching every thought. When you
Yeah.
have this grip that I have to catch every thought, because I've had that one. It's
Mm-hmm.
they just start going off like fireworks. It's impossible. You just get lost in it.
Right. Well, and to your point, what do you get out of that?
Yeah, why do we have to catch every thought, right? Generically what we're
Yeah. And unless you're wanting to share it with somebody and make sure that for posterity that somebody can read it all and make sure that you have that your compulsions are not something that you need to be concerned about or your obsessions rather.
i.e. your therapist, right?
I.e. your therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I'm always like,
Although
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's kind of tricky because sometimes I don't think it's wholly a bad thing to say, you know what, I'm just gonna write this down and walk away from it. Not that you have to get down every single detail, but like in a time limited way, saying, you know what, I I have this worry. I'm not gonna compulse about it. I'm just gonna put it down on the and I'll come back to it later. And then when you come back to it, oftentimes it's like, why did I even care about this? Right. But like the idea of wanting to use that as a strategy to help you get space, I don't think is a bad one. But if the intent is I need to get down every single detail because if I don't, and then I don't run it past somebody, right, that kind of rigidity, that's where I think it starts to become problematic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's, yes, I think that's a great line to differentiate between where it becomes compulsive. And the reality is like every single thought is not help. It's just not
No,
helpful to you,
no, no.
because you can't even catch them all.
Well, and you've got a life, right? And
And you're going to start getting more anxious about it.
right, right.
So,
Sure, gotta make, yeah, no, not gonna be helpful, I doubt.
Like when I am the person that like brings in the notes into session, the
Yeah,
on the not as a therapist, as a
as the
and I
advisor.
see you.
Yes.
I know who you are when you come in my office. And I say, let's put the notes away. Just let's try something here.
Yeah,
Let's be okay with missing something in treatment today.
yeah, yeah. It's a fine line because sometimes it's helpful to have notes that you're just sort of, are you all right?
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. Sorry.
that's okay. I think the
It sounds
audio
like
shifted.
I know. Hold on.
Oh, I think it's better. I think it's
Okay,
back.
good. Back?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
So yeah, I think sometimes it can be helpful to have, thoughts that every once in a while you reflect on and review. If you're like learning anything, it's just when it becomes, I need to write everything down and I need to look at it all the time and I need to memorize it and I need like it's that sort of
It is. It's painful. We know, believe me. We could literally talk about this for hours. And
yeah.
just I'm paying attention to time because I think we started
Yes.
at 12:39
Did we?
ish. So
We should probably
we should there's so many good questions though.
dang it. Should we take
I
one
mean,
more?
real okay.
We could
Shoot,
do
it's
it.
hard.
We could do a second go at this too.
Okay, let's do that. But
Part
how am I
two.
going to remember all these? Can I screenshot these or what do I do? How do I? No, huh?
Yeah, no, you could screenshot them, I think.
Okay. I mean, people are talking about recovery. That's so great.
Yeah.
The feeling is so, it's just, this is all really good.
Yeah.
Because it's going
Well,
to disappear when I log
yeah, so
out.
I know, go ahead and take some screenshots
Okay.
and we're sort of at a place too where maybe we do a catch-all catch-up session, right? Where people can come in and ask questions and we can do a Q&A about the topics we've already covered. I don't know.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
yeah.
No, absolutely. In fact, I think you can do a third person on live now, right?
That's right. I forgot about that. Should
So
we
we
invite
can,
our friend KFOS?
I would love to. We can invite a lot of people.
That's true. Not just KFOS.
No. Well, of course, he'd be number one.
I really hope that he watches this at some point and then he just hears me call him
He
KFOS.
doesn't like us that much.
No.
So I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
whatever. Maybe.
He does. He does. I think he does. Does he? Kevin?
Don't
Yeah, I'm
answer
gonna.
that, Kevin. It's a trap.
Okay.
Oh boy. So yeah, so why don't did you screen grab?
I did.
I love the screen grab
Yes.
function. So yeah, like let's look at those next time.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us, you guys. I'm really glad we got to have this discussion. I think it's a really important
Yes.
topic.
Very, very important. Thank you all for joining us.
Yes.
Hopefully next week we can this can be an obsessing part 2.
Yes, I like it.
Okay.
TTFN friend.
Adios. I see you
Bye.
on the other side.
Indeed.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.